Fred Kajoba is at Vipers after a loud cry of him wanting to coach a big team, and it doesn't get any harder for him with months that come with coaching at Kitende. Welcome to the podium. My name is Franklin Kaweru, and I'm joined by Joel Muyita. How are you, Joel?
I'm okay, fresh week, but of course starting on a sad note because of the passing on of Kobe Bryant. Yeah. And it's been over news, and I think everybody has gotten to know about it, but life moves on.
Including Anja Katatumbo, of course.
Yes, but of course life moves on, and we are here to bring you the latest in the world of sports, whatever happened in the weekend, and what to expect this week.
I want us to start, I think, with our young girls who were in Ethiopia for the return leg of the World Cup Under-17 qualifiers. Of course, Uganda being victorious as well. What did you make of the performance in the preliminary round of the qualifiers?
Yes, I should say delighted for the performance they put up. I didn't expect them to go and win in Ethiopia, but they eventually managed to do so. Of course, Ayub Khalifa going into the second round had already indicated that he wanted his team to put up a better performance than they did here in Kampala. They won here 2-0, but eventually went there and managed to scoop a 3-1 win, and of course advancing to the next stage, 5-1 on aggregate, where Uganda will play Tanzania. Tanzania, on the other hand, also won against Burundi, 6-1 on aggregate. So it should be a tough one for us in the next round.
I mean, from the seniors, Tanzania has given us quite a run for our man. Not a run, but they have beaten us almost on every meeting. Is it the same kind of outcome we should expect from the girls, or in the underage groups we are a little bit better?
It should be, because if you look at the side that played them in the under-20 just the other weekend, we lost 2-1, and of course a couple of players for the Tanzanian team play for the under-17 as well. Including one of their fierce strikers, Aisha Masaka. She's been scoring a couple of goals. I think she scored 3 against Burundi. So almost the same squad that they have for the under-20 is playing in the under-17. So there should be a little worry for us.
Just like us.
Yes, because they also played against us in the Sekafa. Yep. Of course, we managed to win the title, but we didn't get the maximum points off them. Yep. It was a draw. It ended in a 1-1 draw. But I think overall, Uganda will have a good performance, especially at home. I think that's where we should edge this one, because going to Dar es Salaam, I don't believe we'll get the result there. But if we can utilize the advantage here, and maybe we win with a big margin, probably going into the next round will be a bit of an easier hurdle for us.
Okay. I think there's another encounter coming up also in the under-20 qualifiers.
Yes.
And it's the same almost group of girls.
Yes.
Take us through that as well.
Yes, we play Tanzania this weekend in Lugogo after losing 2-1 in Dar es Salaam, and you hope the coach there, Oliver Mbekeka, because this is her first duty as a national team head coach for the under-20. She was in charge for the first leg, but you believe it's kind of a tall order for her, because Tanzania, like I said, is a bit of a tough opponent for us, not in the same situation as we faced Ethiopia. So I believe it will be a tough one, but you talk of the players that we have in the setup. Juliet Narukenge, she's in the form of her life, because just this year she has scored 4 goals for the national teams, the under-17 and the under-20. And considering that we've scored a total of 4 goals and she has 3. Actually, we've scored 5 and she has 4, meaning she's been very efficient this time around. So I believe it will be a tough one, but 1-0 will see her through. Maybe any win can as well see her through. So it's upon Oliver Mbekaka to make sure she rectifies the mistake we did in the other game, and probably we get that desired win to advance to the next stage.
Does Khalifa as well come in to help, given it is the same group of players he's handling with the under-17?
Not really, because FUFA designated different people for different age groups, and Khalifa is with the under-17 plus the senior team. Yes. Oliver Mbekeka is here, and she's working with the recently appointed goalkeeping coach at Vipers, Magala.
Yeah.
So Ayub Khalifa is not with this setup for the under 20.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now, Vipers have a new coach, but before we get to that, I want us to start with the Uganda Cup. There were quite some shocking results at the round of 34. Of course, Paraka is out. So is Vipers.
Same as Police.
So is Police.
Busoga United.
Busoga United.
Yes.
What is happening? Is it that teams don't take the Uganda Cup so seriously and they field second string teams, or teams come prepared because it is a one-off game?
Not really, but of course over the world you see these knockout tournaments always throw shocks, because just recently, over the weekend, we saw Shrewsbury moving from 2 goals down to come and level that game against Liverpool. Yeah. So you believe these knockout games, whenever these so-called small teams are playing against the big sides, yeah, they want to throw everything they have at their disposal. So in the end, they managed to bring up these shocks. But of course, Vipers, like you mentioned, they faced a shock against Kajans United, yeah, in a derby of sorts, because Kajans also is on the Entebbe Road. And that culminated into people losing their jobs. Edward Golola, who has been at Vipers for I don't know how many years, and he's been coming and going out. It's more of a cycle for him to be sacked and returns after a few months. Yeah. But of course, the entire technical department as well are getting the sack, and new people are into the job. Yeah. Yes.
I want us to talk about, first of all, the attendance as well. We saw some of the pictures from the Paraka game.
Yes, in Rampara district.
In Rampara district. What does that say about this competition, especially because it involves teams from across the country?
Yes, because this is a tournament that involves any team of sorts. For as long as you can raise registration money, yeah, you are able to play, yeah, regardless of whether you're a non-league team. Yeah. And I think this brings out the idea of people believing in their own teams, the community teams, because the team that eliminated Undu Paraka, Bugamba, not so many people had known about them. Yeah. But already now they have the name out there, people already know about them. Yeah. So I think it's a good motive and a good motivation to the local teams out there, because every time you're playing against these so-called big teams, yeah, the team playing in the top tier league, you get to be known everywhere. So it's a good chance for those small teams out there.
For the teams that got eliminated, Paraka seems to be having the biggest problems, especially with their players exiting. What is not happening at the club at this point in time?
There has been a mass exodus of players at Undu Paraka, and just yesterday we were having our car-friendly game somewhere, and we managed to bump into Wakiso Giants training. Yeah. And what we saw was 2 players from Undu Paraka, their captain Gaddafi Wahab, and a midfielder called Faizo Ibrahim Anin, training with Wakiso Giants. And that means they're about to leave Undu Paraka and join Wakiso Giants, because Jeriga Tendele, the right back, already crossed over, and Livingstone Imbaba's the head coach as well crossed over. Yeah. A couple of other players have joined Bull, and some are also bound to leaving Undu Paraka. So I think it's the case of them struggling financially, because since the start of the season, there has been this case of them struggling financially, not meeting the players' salaries, and it's been everywhere. And of course, the challenge is evident, especially to the management of the club. And you see the struggles have eventually come to affect them, that most of the players want to leave. Yeah.
I think we should get Vipers into this mix. They don't have the same problems.
Yes.
They have the players. I think the financial obligations are met as well.
True.
At least from the outside. But they couldn't get the results there, and the coaches. What actually happened in that game?
Of course, it was a tough one, because Kajans United took the lead. Then Vipers managed to bounce back and level matters through Fad Bayo. But eventually that game going into the penalty kicks, and here because this is more of a lottery. And Kajansi United, of course, managing to edge that one 8-7. But not so many people expected that in the aftermath of all that, there could be people losing their jobs, and in the end, the people at the helm of Vipers, of course, I should say Lawrence Mulindwa, because there are not so many people that make the decisions. There are not so many people that make the decisions at Vipers, are eventually coming out to make that bold decision of letting go of Edward Golola and the entire technical team. A decision that personally I found outrageous, because if you're still leading the log in the Uganda Premier League, about 4 points ahead of KCC. Of course, like I mentioned, Uganda Cup or any knockout tournaments always throw around shocks. And you're letting go of the technical team at such a crucial stage, because the second round, we all know, this was where it matters most. Yes. In most cases, if you want to win the league, this is the most crucial bit of the season. And if you're letting go of the coaches, meaning there should be a fresh start, bringing on people that are not used to the environment and the setup. So I don't know what prompted the decision, but personally I didn't find it fitting to let go of Edward Golola.
Is Vipers' problems a coaching issue, or it is a management issue? I think the discussion should rotate around that. Is it a coaching issue? Is it a personnel issue? Is it a management issue?
It should be a case of someone being overambitious, because literally, like I said, you're top of the table, and you seem destined to win the title. Of course, the performance hasn't been quite impressive, but the fact that you're getting the results and you're still in the mix there for the title, really, it wouldn't warrant someone to be sacked. And like you asked, personally, I believe it's a management issue, getting overambitious, because you would ask, what do they want at the moment? If you're leading the table, and of course this is just a blip. You lost to Villa, yes. You've lost to Kajansi United. So what? It's normal everywhere. It happens. Yeah. And you must carry on and leave the people to be in charge, because you don't want to have these changes every other time, because these changes come as well with people getting used to the new environment, and in the end, you never know what will come.
Was the sacking decision made after the Villa defeat, or it really happened after Kajansi United's disappointment?
Should have happened after Kajansi's disappointment, but of course I think the defeat to Villa and the defeat to Kajansi will bring out the disappointment, because we all know the recent rivalry between Villa and Vipers. Yeah. So after losing that one, and you go ahead to lose to a Kajansi United that lives in your neighborhood, I think that is what prompted Mulindwa to make the decision.
Let us talk about the man who is taking charge. He has been at Bright Stars most of his time, and on the national team is a goalkeeping coach. Does he have the credentials at this point in time to carry Vipers to the promised land that Mulindwa wants them to be at?
It should be a tough one, because like you said, if he has the ability to carry them to the promised land, he has never won the league. That's a fact. Yeah. And of course, the first duty for him at the moment is winning the league, because you're already leading the table with 4 points ahead. And the immediate task for him would be eventually winning that league. But it should be a tough job for him as well, because you're coming into a setup that is literally properly structured. Yes. No worries of salaries, like he was always ranting at Bright Stars, where players reportedly went for 9 months without pay. Yes. Here you're having the players being paid, and you have a setup, the squad, big enough for you to make everything that would want to fulfill the targets of your bosses. So it's a tough one for Fred Kajoba, and you would wonder what impact he will have on the team, because the same setup Edward Golola has had, and he's managed to get those results. And you wonder what Kajoba will bring, because it's not your coach that will bring the Kawowo style of football that so many people want to play at Vipers, including the boss that he wants to play. So I wonder sincerely. I don't know what sort of football he's bringing to Kitende. We'll only wait to see in the few games that he will be in charge. for this second round.
Talking about the brand of football that Kajoba can bring to Vipers, in his interviews, most post-match interviews, while he was still at Bright Stars, he said he did not have the personnel who could be able to execute the passing brand of football.
Yes.
Now that he has the players, do you think his mentality, or he also prefers the kind of passing football, but he just didn't have the resources at Bright Stars to get the ball moving?
I really doubt, because for the time Kajoba has been at Simba, now UPDF, and moving to Bright Stars, he is not a coach that promises you something in that kind of state, because you could talk about Abdallah Moviru. Is that a police side that is not so much facilitated, doesn't have the same players like Vipers has, but he shows you what he wants his team to play. So for Kajoba to get such an excuse, I don't think it really makes sense. We're all the way to see what he will bring at Vipers. And this is more of a project, because about 2 years ago, Lawrence Muinwa told us how he wants Vipers to transform into a TP Mazembe of sorts. But this comes with, of course, with patience. You don't just wake up in one day and you think it will become TP Mazembe. TP Mazembe have went through a process to reach the heights they have attained, and you don't want to make these changes every other time, because you want somebody to manage this entire setup that you want to move forward. So these changes are uncalled for me.
Now, Kajoba starts his reign against Mbarara City.
Yes.
Is that the test he needs to prove something?
Should be a tough test for him, because for the time he was in charge at Bright Stars, he managed to face them on 4 occasions and just winning once. So it should be a tough one, and he's playing them away from home. Of course, even Mbarara City are playing away from home, because they host their games in Bombo. But it will be a tough one, and Mbarara City lost their recent league game at Usoga United, but they bounced back, winning in the Uganda Cup. So it's a tough fixture for Kajoba and Vipers, knowing that KCC on the other hand play Chetume in Jinja. So any slip up for them will mean if KCC win on the other end, the gap is narrowed to maybe 1 point.
Should Kajoba be judged on the first game he's going to manage? Has he already put his notes into the players, having probably had about 3 or 4 sessions with the team?
You wouldn't want to judge him on the first day. Probably will need about 3 or 4 games to really know the impact he will have, to really know what he brings to Vipers. I personally don't want to judge him on the first game, and like I said, it's a tough one. So you never know where it could end for him.
Now, this week there is the historically biggest game in the country happening at Nambole. Villa hosts Express. Villa in the first round looked like a side that was going to challenge. They fell off a little bit, but were again buoyed up by the victory at Kitende. Express, on the other hand, the struggles continue. Nothing has changed. The more things change, the more they remain the same.
The only consistent thing about them is the inconsistency. Because they are losing this game, then the next game they win, because they received a beating of their life against Police, but bounced back with a 3-1 win, a 3-0 win against Proline. Yes.
What should we expect from this game?
More of a game that no longer makes sense, because these are 2 giants that you should call them sleeping giants at the moment. Of course, the recent engagements between the two is more of a concentration among the fans, those that really know what it means to have a Kampala derby. But on pitch, there is no signs of really a derby of sorts, because the players, the quality, and the kind of football that is displayed on pitch doesn't really bring out the derby that everyone would want. More of a Simba Young derby or Gor Mahia Leopards in Kenya. So I don't really expect much, but of course Villa seem like they have really found back their feet again after winning against Vipers. Then they went ahead to win in the Uganda Cup in Gulu. and they seem like they are back on their feet. Bashir Mutanda, of course, regaining the scoring touch eventually after going the entire first round without a goal. He has scored in the last 2 games.
Yeah, he has pretty much scored 1 goal because the game at Kitende was scored by the goalkeeper anyway.
Anyway, but of course that brings back his confidence as a player.
Yeah.
For a person who scored over 13 goals last season, and this time round he has struggled to find the fine form. And of course Villa as well, like I said, bouncing back after losing 3 games in a row, and they seem like they are into this one, and they go into this game with an upper hand.
Okay. The fans at Wankuru have called for the head of their coach, George Smogere. Chiwanuka Keke seems to be reluctant to do anything about the sacking of the coach. Could the issue at Express be also a management or a coaching issue? Is Chiwanuka reluctant to sack the coach because he knows he has not given the coach enough to deliver?
Yes, you could talk about that, but then who should I bring in? Because you don't want to change coaches every other time. Like I mentioned about Vipers and the rest of the clubs that do. Keke came in, and a few games in charge, Kefa Chisala was sacked, and there hasn't been any progress from what Kefa produced, and George Smogere, what he has brought on board. So you don't want to change them every other time because you've not given them the chance to really impact what they would have. Because of course, if you look at the way Express play, you really wouldn't figure out what they try to do on pitch. But it's a couple of, it's about 11 players chasing the ball, but not really,
It all over the place.
yes, not really knowing what they are playing. So I think it's a matter of them just giving Simogeri the entire season to know where they will end, and maybe being patient enough to know what he will impact on the team.
Okay, all right. Now, moving away from football, over the weekend, of course, the Nile Sprouts Rugby Premier League continued, and it was match day 6. Of course, Joel managed to cover one of the games at Legends, where Mongas escaped a late surge from the host Rhinos. Take us what happened through that game.
At the start, Rhinos seemed like they were taking this one. Because they took an 8-0 lead at about 20 minutes. But eventually, I think they got it got into their minds, and eventually Mongas bounced back towards the end of the first half, and eventually took the lead. In the second half, it again changed. Rhinos returned recharged, and tried to mount a little bit of pressure, gotten a few tries in there, but really, towards the final end of it, Gift Oketa got that try that eventually sealed the victory for the visitors.
You must have been paying some attention to what was happening at Matere, because that is probably your favorite team in the league.
Yes.
Cobs, of course, ran over Impis, and they seem to be going toe-to-toe with Hizens, who won at Chadron.
Yes.
It is 4 points between them. Now, with the Pirates beaten, do you think now the title is between the two giants as usual?
Of course, it's too early to call for that, but like we've seen over the years, it's been more of a duopoly between Mongas and rather Cobs and Evens. More of these two teams. Of course, Pirates coming into the fix a few years ago, but you believe it will remain, the status quo will remain, and these two teams will push themselves for the title. Evens have an upper hand, and they seem like unstoppable at the moment. Of course, beating Evens, rather Cobs and Pirates already early in the season, and you believe the few games that I have towards the end of the first round, really, no one will beat them, because even the Warriors were expected to cause a challenge. They didn't really put up one.
they were never going to challenge.
Yes.
I want to talk about the games actually that happened at Chadondo. Hidden seemed to be comfortable at all areas of the game. For me, I think from the lineup, they did not have, of course, their top jumpers. Uhuru was not in that game. Of course, they had Aziz Khan there, and
who played well,
who
and
played
he was
actually
man
well,
of the match.
and he was man of the match.
Actually, I was talking to you, and personally, I thought Sebuliba would nick that one.
For scoring the 2 tries.
Yes.
I think at this point, you would say Heathens is a more prepared team because they are good in forward play and their backs are good as well. I think they have the best forward play in the league at this point in time. It will depend on how I think Cobs, they basically have to win the return leg if they are to challenge for Heathens. Dethrone them. Cobs, on the other hand, they are not really very good in their forwards because at the moment they are playing makeshift forwards. Of course, when I had Manono is that it's in the back row,
yes,
there are a lot of problems, The young guy who was lifted the other day by
Kajoba.
I think there is a lot of work that needs to be done by Cobs, but I think they need to win the return leg by all means and keep accumulating the bonus points if they are to dethrone Heathens from running away again. But of course, given the number of players that Heathens have with the Sevens campaign coming in to take away some players,
more of a distraction.
A distraction of a sort. I think still Heathens have an upper, because if they are going to put any players on the national team, it's going to probably be a maximum of 3 players. If you talk about Polepilo, of course, Wokorach, and the number 10, the fly half, who most Heathens fans don't like as much. Aaron Okorot, because of his wastefulness sometimes and all that. I think Heathens still remain okay, even without those, because they still have the half-back positions occupied by veterans. Robert Masenda and Faiz Ogama. I think they can still pull something around, of course. For Cobs,
unlike Cobs, yes. On the other end,
it's difficult. Yes. If you take out Ian, you take out Casito, you take out probably Redo, Pius Ogena, you're ripping out the heart of the team. I don't know how the Sevens campaign is going to have, but I think they are going to have a lot of trouble. Of course, you don't need to say anything about Paris. They are already been affected by because their backline is pretty much on the Sevens team. So I think
they seem like they have a thin squad.
And it is very thin. Some are injured, some are doing their studies. Of course, they seem to lack leadership at this point. The personnel, they are literally playing makeshift players in those. In fact, even the last game they had Conrad Wanyama at 15. That is weird. Even if you're looking out for something, having Wanyama at 15, man, they are a lot of, and it doesn't get easier for them because their next game is in Entebbe against Mongers,
who are also paid.
who are paying themselves.
Yes.
I think it's going to be quite very tough.
And if you're starting to lose to teams like Rams
for the first time in the league,
in your own backyard,
it's going to be very difficult.
Yes.
Otherwise, I want to thank everyone who has been watching this show today. We came a little bit late, but nevertheless, we managed to get in something, and we'll be back next week with the rest of the crew. Of course, Isma wasn't able to be here. And so did Dennis.
And shout out to Ernest Akol.
For making
I
your
know
food.
you must have had a tough weekend, but a quick recovery to you.
And a painful one, probably. All right. Have a good evening.